Cheers, guys, and welcome to Uncle Scott's Pancast podcast. Toasting with just a little black coffee today. Got to get up and get shaken on the day. Got a lot going on. We're going to make some freaking eggs. Cook some freaking eggs on the old Control Freak here. Show you guys how that is working and coming along. Going to talk some carbon steel seasoning. Viewer feedback, but what I want to get started with first here, and the most important thing this week, is that Debouille carbon steel sale. Exclusively for us here at Uncle Scott's Kitchen. If you like the videos, if you visit Uncle Scott's Kitchen, I think we're probably the best place to hang out and talk carbon steel on the internet, I gotta say. But Debouille is running a sale just for us, 25% off all Debouille carbon steel. This is the best deal of the season that you're going to see on the carbon steel. Now, Debouille, they make all kinds of other stuff, copper, stainless steel, bakeware stuff, mandolins, etc., etc. This is only on the carbon steel and only for us, and it runs until November 7th. A link below. Use that link and discount code Uncle Scott at checkout. And for 1 week only, you will get 25% off your carbon steel. Now, the sale started yesterday, and the stock levels were very good. I checked this morning, and they're already out of 3 items. They are out of the Ultimate Egg Kit, they're out of the Griddle, and they are sold out of the 12.6 inch Big Debouille Mineral B Pro. So I cannot reiterate enough, this is the best price you're going to see on Debouille carbon steel this year. If there's anything at all you're interested in, a gift for someone, pan for yourself, if it's in stock, this is the best price. Jump on it while it lasts. For this Mineral B Pro here, I've had this one about 6 years, maybe a little over 6 years. The handle looks a little bit different than the current ones. The handle has been redesigned since I got this one. And a side note on this guy, this is a 32 centimeter pan. I'm in America and I have no idea what 32 centimeters is. How big is that? So they say for us here in America, it's a 12.6 inch pan. And then that leads to what in the world is 0.6 of an inch? My rulers, my tape measures, they come in increments of half, fourth, eighth, 16th, 32nd. There is no 0.6 on my ruler. But once again, the good old metric system is supposed to be logical and make sense and make things easier. For me, it actually makes things more confusing. Now let's cook some freaking eggs on the Breville Control Freak. I unboxed this in the last Pancast, and I've just cooked on it a few times so far, but some initial reactions here. My first cook was some scrambled eggs. I used this 12-inch copper core all-clad pan, and I think it had good coverage on the induction here, and I'm also happy to note that it did not turn into a spinner. So it didn't warp the pan. But one thing I learned is that this guy has a pan temperature sensor here. And so you dial in a temperature and the unit will bring the pan up to that temperature. I think I used 280 or 290. I'll have to look back at the video. It brought the pan up to that temperature, and then I added my butter, and then I added my eggs. And the temperature dropped about 100 degrees. You could actually see it happen in real time with the display and sensor here. And those first eggs stuck. And I cooked another batch I started about 325, and that temperature dropped way down, and it worked a little bit better, but I still got a little sticking. This morning I made more scrambled eggs, got everything ready to go. 3 eggs, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of water, enough chives to keep Chef Andrew Gruel happy. And here for the carbon steel, what I did was go to 300 degrees, so 25 degrees cooler than the stainless steel, and added my butter, added my eggs, and I got a lot better performance here. Now, why does the carbon steel at a lower temperature seem to do better than the stainless steel at a higher temperature? I'm hesitant to walk out onto the thin ice of science here, but I think it has to do with thermal mass. And what I'm learning here, and maybe this was obvious to everyone, and I'm just picking up on this now, something that happens to me quite often in life, I gotta say. But maybe it's not just the starting temperature of the pan, you gotta take into account the thermal mass and how much that pan how much heat it loses once the food goes in. So it's not starting temperature, it's cooking temperature once the food is in the pan. So who knows, regardless, we are going to be doing a lot more freaking cooking on the Control Freak and see how it goes. I'm also happy to say that the carbon steel, it also did not warp or turn into a spinner. One other interesting tidbit about the Control Freak here, I was reading the instructions. There's an instruction manual and then there's a separate safety warnings manual. So a lot more safety warnings with this guy than with some of the other appliances. Some of the warnings are the standard stuff like don't use it in the bathtub, that type thing. But a couple of them jumped out at me as kind of interesting. It says to be careful when you're wearing a ring or a watch near the magnetic coil, and those can possibly heat up. I was wondering, has anybody run into that with an induction stove or a burner? Your ring heating up, or maybe would it mess with the electronics of an iWatch? I don't wear the Apple Watch. Also, it said to be careful and ask your doctor before using this unit if you have a pacemaker. And I didn't think about that. Maybe the magnetic field could interfere with someone's pacemaker, and you don't want to walk into the kitchen and find grandma face down in the scrambled eggs. So definitely be careful and check your warnings if you move to induction and have a pacemaker. Let's talk a little carbon steel seasoning. I put up a video of me turning a pan from one that needed some touch-up seasoning into a work of art, shiny, dark black pan. And I did that outside on my back deck on my paella burner. Got some feedback about that video. State4775 wrote in and said, I call those work of art pans when they're shiny and mirror-like and dark jet black. He calls it Hollywood seasoning. So I kind of like that. So that was a Hollywood seasoning I put on that pan, kind of flashy. Omcan2246 wrote in and said, carbon steel seasoning rarely stays on unless you use it as a designated egg pan. I totally agree with that, and I believe I mentioned that in the video. If you get that shiny, dark, jet black seasoning, it takes a while to get it on there. There's a lot of smoke, and it's a little bit of an effort. If you do take a pan with that type seasoning, like this one right here, if you cook bacon in it, steaks, pork chops, that seasoning is not going to be jet black and shiny. So I would only do that Hollywood seasoning if you're going to keep it for a dedicated egg pan and just keep it in pristine condition. Also a good reason to have two carbon steel skillets there. Have one jack of all trades working pan and have one just for your eggs. Let's see, Poppy_love59, not sure exactly what that means, don't want to know. Asks exactly what type of oil did you use, since so many different oils have many different smoking temperatures. In that video, I used canola oil, just regular Crisco canola. Nothing fancy there. You can also use peanut, grapeseed, sunflower, and veggie oil. Good ones to start with. That pan was so hot, it was well above the smoking temperatures of any of those oils, and it would not have mattered. Let's see, JKB Cook wrote in and said, has 3 Debouillet pans and all are working pans, no work of art pans there. They are between 10 and 15 years old and completely non-stick, non-stick eggs, non-stick pot stickers, and anything else cooks in them. And didn't say whether it's a he or she, but it says, as I've told my nieces and nephews, your cookware is made to be used and will not always look pretty. Truer words have never been spoken, especially about carbon steel. I'm a big proponent of cook more and worry about your seasoning less. That turning your pan into a Hollywood work of art pan, that's something you just do every now and then just for fun. On a day-to-day basis, working pans work just as well. Let's see, Willard Scott 5290, wonder if any relation to the weatherman from back in the day on the Today Show, wrote in and says, bought a Lodge carbon steel a few weeks ago. It's been fine, but I've been toying with the idea of sanding it down. Now, this is something I see a bunch on the internet, not only with the Lodges, but Lodge carbon steels, but especially with cast iron. People take grinders and sand these things down to a mirror finish. I don't do that. I don't know. If you guys try it, if somebody tries it, let me know if it works, but I don't want to breathe metal shavings and metal dust. I don't want to wear a respirator, and I don't like to spend money on a frying pan and then have to get out tools and work on it for hours and hours on end. So I have never done that. It might work, it might not. I don't know. And why have I got a fried grandpappy sitting here? Not only does this thing do a great job of cooking tater tots, When you're making cooking videos, it also makes a fantastic camera stand. I put up a video on how to get potatoes to be non-stick. Lots of times potatoes are big offenders. If you cook them at the wrong temperature, the wrong method, they will just be stuck like a duck. I showed how to get them sliding and non-stick, yet still browning easily. Let's see, Jim G. Lathar 4053 wrote in, says one hack he uses when making hash browns is to grate the potatoes and use a potato ricer to remove excess water. He says that it prevents a bunch of paper towels or staining. It prevents using a bunch of paper towels or staining kitchen towels, which can lead to domestic abuse. I thoroughly agree with this, and he is right here. If you use one of your wife's fancy kitchen towels and wring potato water through that towel, the same process that causes potatoes to change color and darken in after a few minutes in the air, that stuff is now in that towel, and it will do the same thing to that towel. What you got to do is rinse that towel out, and I like doing it that way instead of using a potato ricer, just because I can rinse the towel, throw it in the laundry, everything's fine. With that potato ricer that's got all those little holes in there, and it's just a little bit more cleanup. But either way works, and don't tick off your wife. Speaking of domestic tranquility, also on that video, Mr. DC Dukes 1857 writes in and says, thank you so much. His wife always gives him a hard time about stuck potatoes. And I might get myself in trouble a little bit here though, but I found that around here, once I fix one problem my wife has been on me about, it doesn't mean that tranquility and bliss ensues. Sometimes she moves on to another problem. Someone, and I apologize, I had your name and I don't see it at the moment, wrote in and asked about the knife I used to open that Breville Control Freak in the last video. This is a buck sheath. I think it's some sort of skinning knife. I've never actually skinned any animals with it, but skinning open a cardboard box and a shipping box, this thing is fantastic. And on a side note there, not to get too far out in the personal weeds, but many years ago, my dad started giving me and my brother buck knives for Christmas, and we'd get one every year, and then we started running out of models to get. Now it's every couple of years, but I've got a ton of buck knives, and they're all fantastic, very high quality, and highly recommend buck knives if you're looking for a good knife. Now, on a little bit of a somber note here, just seeing that paella burner, I noticed that there was tremendous flooding over in Spain and Valencia. And Valencia is the home of paella, and they had a bunch of deaths and a bunch of damage, and it got me to wondering, when I make paella and put up a video on YouTube, I actually end up talking to people from Valencia in Spain about the paella, often correcting me on something I've done wrong. But I really hope any of you guys I've talked to about paella, I hope you guys are all okay over there. But in hopes of helping out our paella making friends over in Spain, I'm going to put up a link to the Spanish Red Cross, the American Red Cross. If anybody wants to donate a couple bucks, which is what I'm going to do, that would be a good thing to do to help out. Also did it for the hurricane victims in North Carolina. And it's one of those things, not to get out into the moral weeds here, but we all need to be better people. Be good people. And I'm in Utah, sitting at a computer. There's not much I can do when something bad happens somewhere else in the world other than feel bad and show empathy, say a little prayer, and donate a couple of bucks. So be good and do nice things. Okay, jump on that Debouillé sale before it's gone. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again next time on Uncle Scott's Pancast.